Atomics is even less fun than organic chemistry. It's Amigos, everything Amiga. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Atomix.
Ooh, it sounds like a cool, like, disco-type band, right?
Listen, this game could have been a million cool things, and it decided to be none of them.
Just launching a volley right out of the gate, are you? Jeez.
Aaron, were you real good at chemistry in high school?
You know, no. Let's put it this way. I got one F in my entire school career. From all the way back, yeah, big time, and that was in chemistry. And the funny thing is, I've always liked science. I've always been pretty good at science, but something happened, man, and I just could not grasp the science.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I never grasped it. I mean, I effed out of that sucker. I was just like, "Get me out." It was my senior year. I'm like, "What am I doing? Why am I taking this?" You know, and then, well, while I was taking it, because I needed some chemistry and advanced mathematics to move on into college, but still, I got out of it.
I don't think we've ever talked about your original plans when you were enrolled in college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what did you originally start to major in?
You're gonna make me talk about this. I'll talk about it. So, you know, I was like an institutionalized kid. Okay.
That sounds bad.
Well, what I mean by that is, like, I never, like, we've talked this before, I didn't know you could drop out of school. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could, like, not go to college. I was just, like, I was just marching forward like a lemming. You know what I mean? I had no idea. And so I just sort of did what they told me. And so when I went to college, I was like, my God, I'm in college. I'm on my own. I'm the king dog of my own life. I can do whatever I want. And so they told me, they said, listen, you need to get something in the tech field. I was like, tech field is for suckers. I'm not doing that. I'm like,
tech's got no future there.
So I said, I'm going to be a writer, man. I'm going to go into English. And so initially I majored in English. This was a foolish notion on my part, because my first thing is, you know how you can CLEP out of classes when you go to school, like the CLEP tests. I took these tests. I've mentioned this before, I know. I never passed the English CLEP test, English 101. I tried it twice.
I don't know what a CLEP test is. I don't think you've ever talked about this.
You've never heard of CLEP test? Oh, so CLEP test.
I think that's some sort of like dated terminology that nobody says.
That's my life. That's all I do. Spew it. But CLEP tests, you could take these tests at these real formal tests at the school.
How formal? Did you have to wear a suit?
No, but you had to show up. It was in an enclosed, like, classroom. The doors are all locked and the windows are down. The teacher watching the whole time you're on it.
Okay.
You know, secret ballot type stuff. And the CLEP test, if you passed the test, you just CLEP'd out of that class. You had to take it.
So it's a verb and a noun.
You skipped right out. So, like, English 101, I thought, that's for suckers. I already speak English. What am I doing?
Damn.
Took the CLEP test, killed the grammar, killed it. And then there's a grammar part, and then there's a written part on the English one. And the written, when I say written, I mean you had like a prose or whatever. And so what you did, they had an envelope. It was like a Get Smart. They give you the envelope. It's sealed. You open it up, and inside there's the subject you've got to write about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the first time I took it, I opened it up. I looked at my subject. It was fashion. I was like, oh man. And so I wrote a paper on basically not knowing it. It was a disaster. I tried to get real cute. It didn't work. I am not cute. I killed the grammar, failed the other one. I'm like, oh. So and you have to pay for these, by the way. So I'm like, I'm going to take it again. I'm not taking English 101. That's for chumps.
Right.
Went in there, killed the grammar. Here comes the other section. They hand me the envelope, secret envelope. I rip it open. I look at the thing, fashion. And I knew.
Really? Twice in a row? What are the odds?
The second I open, I'm like, I'm done. And I was. And so then I had to go to English 101, which I hated. So English was not for me, so I changed my major. They were like, listen, you need to go to a tech major. I'm like, that's for suckers. I'm going to become a psychiatrist. That's going to be awesome. That's me, old Shrinky A, they'd call me. That didn't last even for It was
How
a
long were you an
disaster.
English major? Because your entire martial career wasn't exactly lengthy.
It was longer than you would expect, to be honest with you. Because I started, I did a whole 2 summers, plus a whole year, plus school somewhere else. So I actually a couple years. Anyway, that didn't work. Psych major was no good. And so then I reluctantly went into the business school and whatever to the computer side of it.
Okay.
And my first year they were going to teach us machine language, and so I went in there and the teacher was a foreign guy and I could not understand a word this guy said. I learned nothing. And I bombed a bunch of tests. I'm like, I'm done with that. I was out. So then I went to sort of like an economics thing, and the teacher in there was also a foreign guy. He was from India, and he kept getting the different monetary values confused. It was a disaster. And that was it in my career. I'm not blaming the teachers or Marshall, because part of this was me just not going to class. French had a big part in me failing out, by the way. I hated French, so I just stopped going to class. So yeah, thanks, Boat. I had multiple
I don't even
majors.
know how we got into. Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, you just you've related the story about how your love of Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja played a significant part.
That also, yes, that was also true.
But
Tetris. Yeah.
You never really talked about what your major originally was. So it's
There's
good
a
to know
reason
that it
I
was
never
English.
talked about that, Boat. There's a big reason. It's
You're sort of like
embarrassing.
Rob Flack O'Hara.
I'm not like him. Rob successfully completed like he's got a master's degree. I can't successfully spell master's degree, much less have one. I wasn't
Well,
like
then
you, Boat.
we better talk about Atomics then.
Good move. The love theme from Atomics, Boat. What you think of that?
That was pretty good.
It's not bad. It's got a little Shadow of the Beast in there.
Well, all these songs do. It's a Thalion
There's a little
joint. What do you
Zamfir
expect?
in there.
Yeah.
They must have been big fans of the pan flute, Boat. So, Atomics, Boat. Had you played this one before?
Never.
Believe it or not, I think I played this on a stream once, and because I thought the name, I was like, with a name like this, it's gold. And I can imagine that this was on stream for about 2 seconds before I was out the door. But anyway, let's talk about it here. It's Atomics, everyone. This came out in 1990. So this one has an interesting sort of, it's not that interesting, but it does have a little backstory. According to everything I read, the game actually was released originally in Germany by an outfit called Tale Software, like tell you a tale, not like not a tale.
Right.
And it was licensed to Thalion, and then it was released everywhere else.
Yeah, so Thalion acted as like the worldwide distributor.
That's right. And so they've got, so you'll see the developers listed as Soft Touch, but apparently this was developed by this, at least was licensed for this Tail outfit. By the way, it's funny that Tail really, it's funny, I looked at all the people that made this game, the coders, all the guys. I've never heard of any of the games that they worked on, but I figured we'd talk about a few. So Tail Software was responsible for a game called Magic Lines, which those were popular in the 80s, if you know what I mean. Especially up near in the blue collar
You're a wolf
area.
of Wall Street.
That's right. Shuffle. And a game called Turn It and Turn It 2.
It sounds like these are puzzle games. That's why we haven't heard of them.
The coder on this, prepare for the botching. It's Gunter Kramer with a bunch of things over all the vowels.
It's the umlauts.
That's right.
That's what they call them over
there. So, plenty of the guys in this list are credited with a game called, that we've got to try this game, Barney Mouse.
That sounds good.
Barney
I'd play
Mouse.
that anytime over Atomics.
Aside from that, this fellow coded Chrysler, Galaxy Fight, Jump Machine, a bunch of other stuff. They did a bunch of stuff for this outfit called Kingsoft. So I'm assuming Kingsoft may be some sort of German developer. The graphics, Rolf Steffens. Audio was from Manfred Nocken. And that's pretty much a long term. Most of these guys worked on the same stuff. Barney Mouse, turn it 1 or turn it 2. So nothing we've really gotten into on this show, Bode. This game is a puzzle game. It's comprised of 30 levels, and the gimmick on this one, Bode, is that you try to assemble these the atoms and the molecules for these different chemical compounds. It's as exciting as it sounds, Bode. When when I think
the picture of Einstein on the title screen is the most exciting part of the game.
They should have had Einstein running and a guy holding a stopwatch and looking meanly at him. That'd be a more accurate interpretation of what this game is.
It's true.
So when you start the game, you've got the choice of 1 to 2 players, and you get to choose your difficulty. I didn't try 2 players, but I read that this actually might be better in 2 players because the way you do it, apparently, it's like 30-second hot seat. So this is kind of goofy. So it's a mouse-driven game, and so I guess both people have their hand nearby, and I guess you can make the tag, and then you actually start. One person goes for 30 seconds, and then they basically tag in the next guy for 30 seconds. They take turns back and forth playing the game. Real
what
weird.
An odd way to play.
Yeah, real goofy in my opinion on this one. So, what do you do in this goofy game? Well, again, you're assembling these molecules. It starts out with a board that's made up of blocks and little molecules. And your job is to drag these things around to assemble them in the appropriate way. And to help you, thank God they at least include what the molecule is supposed to look like. Otherwise, it'd be a complete disaster because I can't remember all these molecules. But in the corner of the screen, they give you a picture of what you're assembling. All right, now, this is a very, I would say, free-form puzzle because there is no set place to make the assembly. You don't know where you're going to assemble it. And so you've got to sort of drag this stuff around. It reminds me, Boat, of like one of those infuriating puzzle tile moving things that you used to get and play with in the car.
This is really like 1 part sliding tile game like you're talking about and 1 part Sokoban, because you've got a room that is reminiscent of Sokoban, the old move the boxes around in the warehouse type game.
Yeah.
And then you also have a thing set up to where you can't move all of the tiles exactly where you want them to all the time. Each one of these atoms, when you click on it and move in a direction, it will go until it either hits a wall or it hits another atom. And so you've got, like you said, you've got that sliding tile mechanic that meets the sort of like maneuvering things around in an enclosed space.
So we've mentioned the meat of the game, but there's one additional important element to this game, and that is a very short run timer that's on the side of the screen that keeps you frosty as you try to assemble your molecule. Now, this game would be hard enough for me if there was no clock at all, Bode. But the addition of the clock, it did not make the game more fun for me, Bode. It made me not have fun with the clock. The clock, it goes fast. And I found this to be a difficult game. It's a game where the base elements to the game are fine. The
base elements. I see what you did there.
That's the only thing I got. You've got these blocks. The playfield looks totally like you would expect. Everything looks fine. The movement with the mouse, you basically sort of scoot the stuff around with your mouse. Now, if you've got a box with multiple little alleys and stuff in it, it's gonna be the whole game is the difficulty of getting the stuff lined up. So sometimes you've got to drag pieces of the molecules into areas where other pieces are going to go, so the molecule will stop in the right spot for you to zip it up to another section of the screen to try to line all this stuff up. I found it very difficult, but the thing about this game is if you're good at these sorts of games, once you understand how to do this, you won't have that much trouble getting back to where you left off. because the levels are all the same. They don't, as far as I can tell, there was no randomness to this game. The levels come up, you assemble the molecules, and if you're a good hand at remembering this sort of stuff, it makes it easier to get through. So I do question the replayability if you've got someone that's good at this. And apparently there are people that are quite good at it, Bode. How did you fare at this thing?
Poorly. The game, like you said, the time limit is an annoyance, but the time limit is not a deal breaker. What is the deal breaker is that when you lose, when you run out of time without completing the molecule, you go all the way back to the beginning of the game.
This is a horrible idea.
There's no life system. There's no password system. It's just game over, baby. Game over. And so because of that, I was unable to progress past the second level.
Well, good. I mean, I'm sad for you, but I feel better. Because do you know how long it took me to get past the second level? The whole time. I did get past it one time because I cheated. I went to the web. I watched some guy get past it. I'm like, well, I can do that. And I did exactly what he did. And then I failed 30 more times before I finally did, in fact, get past it. You reach, like, when you start this game, the molecules are sort of, they're sort of like picture like a bulb on a Christmas tree, okay?
Yeah.
And then picture where the little hook goes, right? It's that in different directions. But as you progress, things suddenly become diagonal. And also there become more components to build these
the molecules get more complex.
Oh yeah, and the mazes get more complex. And I was skipping ahead to levels I would never see in my whole life. And I thought to myself, who could sit around and do this? And I thought to myself, the only people that can do that are people that really enjoy this sort of thing. I don't enjoy this sort of thing. I hated this. I hated this game. The time limit made it too hard. Like I didn't feel myself improving at it. And I got to the point where I'd forgotten how I beat the other level because my brain hurt so much. I'm trying to remember what happened. This is one of those games that I'm going to go on and say that if you're the sort of person that really digs a puzzle game, then you might dig this. You might find something to like here. I mean, what did you think about the basics of the game, the controls, the way the game looked, graphically, the sound? Break it down.
This is not the worst idea for a puzzle game.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you essentially start with something that exists in real life. You've got these molecular structures that are joined together, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have a palette to work from. There's a real world analog, which is always good. Where this game falls flat is the execution. We've already talked about the time limit. We've talked about the game over without with no possibility of continuing. What this game should have started with and continued with for possibly 5 to 10 levels is a room with no walls, a room where you're just maneuvering the atoms around so you can connect them to the molecules. This game needed to ramp up very, very slowly to get you hooked. Because here's the thing. Principle number one of game design, of Japanese/Western, of non-Euro game design, is you want to give somebody a win early. Because if you give somebody a win early, it gives them the incentive to continue. If you make somebody, kill themselves over the very first level, you're only going to get the most hardcore of hardcore people that want to progress all the way through your game. So the walls in this game, they add a level of difficulty because not only do you have to put these molecules together, you have to find there's only one place in every level where you can even build the molecule. And it's not like some variants of Sokoban where they will give you the outline of where the boxes need to end up. In this game, you get nothing. You get no help whatsoever. And I tried on that second level, I tried to figure out where does this thing, where can I place the center of this connector to make all of the atoms connect up to it? And I thought I had it, but I couldn't do it, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I watched a YouTube playthrough, and I was like, okay, well that's how you do it. But did I go back and replay it? No, because if you if you watch a YouTube replay to show you how to solve a puzzle game, why even bother playing it at all? You know.
You're not
And so
wrong.
this is
Yeah.
it's yet another example of one of these Euro games that just has no concept of a difficulty curve. And it's unfortunate because I think the idea, the concept behind this game is cool. You are moving, it's essentially Sokoban, except you're building molecules. I think that's awesome. I think that's cool. But the execution just falls super, super flat.
You know, I don't always agree with you, Bode, on everything you say about these, but in this case, you're dead on. It is the first level of this game, it's instantly demoralizing. They give you nothing. And I'm like, my God, I'm struggling to get 3 molecules to meet up. But I did it. And I thought, okay, I got that. It took me a little while, I got it. And then the next level, it just, I was doomed. I was doomed. They need to let you have a little time. You're right. Just to understand there is a mental state you can get in to sort of understand how these sorts of games work. And they're all about, it's all about moving things to get to position them in a certain way.
Right. Positioning is everything.
Right. And that is it. And so once you get that into that brain space, then maybe you've got a shot. But you need a warm up. I mean, this game is like this is the Shadow of the Beast of puzzle games. It just comes out and just instantly hates you with the time, and the time limit should be off for the first couple levels. Don't give me a time limit. And then it does the third thing you mentioned, which is the true cardinal sin. It's like once the time runs out, it gives you the game over screen, and now you're forced to set through the thing. Then you got to go to the top 10 screen. Then you got to scroll back. Just get me back. We've played games that were like this that didn't commit that crime. That's an indefensible crime. You should just start back where you're at. If you want to quit, you hit escape. There should not be any of this other crap, any of this other nonsense. The game every so often will throw in a bonus stage. It is a counted level, but it's called a bonus stage where you're actually lining up, almost like they look like beakers, or they look sort of like just molecules, square molecules, but it's just like into like squares. They're not molecules. It's a smaller stage where you move
I think
around.
they're kind of like beaker-esque.
Yeah.
Speaking of beaker.
Yeah, very good. You sort of look like Dr. Butts and Honeydew Boat.
Thank you. I think.
And I wish I had Beaker's hair, but I do
oh
not.
My gosh,
We both
you're not
sort of
kidding.
look like Butts and Honeydew. But the bonus levels, I mean, they're the bare minimum. And plus, they count those as levels. So really, they're not bonus levels at all. They're just levels, In terms of anything outside of the puzzle area that does anything, nothing does nothing. There's no incredible music.
Like
There's
Billy
no
Preston said.
Well, even in the background of a lot of puzzle games, at least there'll be a picture or some animation or anything, something going back. This is just some lines. There's nothing going on. There's not any peppy. Like, remember when you played Lemmings? They had all those tunes. Mm-hmm. They weren't the best tunes, but they put in a million tunes, and you're like, oh, that's jaunty. Trust me, I could have used the jaunty tune when I was playing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Or maybe some like European death metal would have also worked. Anything, But I didn't get anything like that. It does have a high score table. As far as I could tell, there was no. I didn't see any codes or anything, so I don't guess there were any level codes. Any of that nonsense.
Because I don't think there's. When we get to the reviews, one of our reviewers mentioned that there's a version out there that has a crack that lets you continue, but I didn't play that version. The WHD version has no trainers.
Hilariously, I did find the trainer crack today because I was so desperate to get further in the game that I stopped playing the WHD load and loaded up a disc version, and it actually had a trainer to let you turn off the time. It also let you start on any level. And by the way, it didn't matter what level you could start on or if there was a timer, because once you get past like the levels get insane. The molecules you're building are off the charts. This game, of course, was not I'm pretty sure this actually first came out on the Amiga as in Germany, but it actually was ported to a multitude of systems, Bode, including the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, the Commodore Plus 4 and C16, and DOS. I
Well,
thought for fun.
when you make a puzzle game,
Yeah.
you're essentially giving yourself license to publish for any system under the sun.
Correct.
Because nothing gets in the way, nothing technically can get in the way of this game running perfectly well.
Yeah, and so just for fun, I thought we'd look at the C64 version versus the Amiga version. Of course, C64 you'd be using the joystick to move around, but I mean you can see it's literally. In fact, we're looking at the same level on both screens here, and they're for the most part they're identical. I mean, the blocks look better, the lines in the background look better. That's
I'll tell you what's
much,
interesting. You actually see the individual atom symbol in the C64 version, like the hydrogen atoms have an H on them, the oxygen atoms have an O. In the Amiga version, you don't get that. So this is yet another example of a C64 game that just totally rocks the Amiga version.
I saw that, but I think the Amiga version may have letters on, but they're real tough to see. If you look real
the old
close.
ineligible letters.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you can't see them, are they worth anything? No. And even if you can see them, they're not worth that much, are they? So, but I mean, you can go and find this on another machine and be just as happy. It's funny, Boat. I read that they were actually going to release this for the ZX, but for whatever reason, it never came out.
This would have been a great game to release on the CD32. You could easily adapt this for the controller, and puzzle games are always big hits with sort of the casual audience. You think about Tetris and the Game Boy and stuff like that. This actually got a Windows 3.1 release under a freeware license. It was sort of an homage that somebody put together. They called it Atomic, which the game actually, if you look at the title screen of the game says Atomic. They couldn't even agree on what the game should be called. That's the amount of thought that went into this. But the freeware version on Windows 3.1, this is exactly the kind of game that seems like would ship with Win 311, along with Minesweeper and Reverse Eye.
If you look at those little dots, they've got they've made the letters slightly a different tint than the background.
Yeah, I see them now. As you talk about it, I see them. It's a very light shading, but the letters are there.
They're
right.
easy to see on the C64 version. So get this, Boat. Someone ported this to the Enterprise 128, so maybe one of these days we'll play like ARG. And by the way, the guy that wrote that version, I had to say his name, Zoltan Pavazzi.
Listen, if you got a name like that, you go places.
And then we also found out there was a clone for this called Atomic for the Jag. So I guess it's probably the same game. They moved over to the Jag. And there was also an Atomic Reloaded. So this game has its fans.
Yeah.
It's just not us.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a certain type of person that loves a challenge. They love a good puzzle, and they love being under the gun. It's just not you and I.
According to Wiki, there are several other clones of this, including Atomics with a K and an S, Gnome Atomics, CA Atomics, and
Gnome
Atomics.
Yeah. Like gnomes? Like garden gnomes?
Well, no, like the operating system Gnome.
Oh, okay.
Did we get any action from the Discord, Boat?
Listen, man, after last week, the desert of reviews where we got nothing, we did get some reviews for this week's game.
Yeah.
The first one comes from Pajako6502. He says, "It appears to be someone's idea of a puzzle game that seems to have started with the sentence, 'Hey, I have a great idea.' And then no one stopped them.
Yeah.
I enjoy puzzle games, but this one, well, I didn't like it. The mouse control is a little clunky, and it's easy to mess up and slide your molecule the wrong way, but should you fail to complete the game in the time limit, and you will have to start the whole game over again. No code, no continue, no nothing. Whoever thought a timer in this game was a good idea was clearly smoking the chemicals you assemble in this game. Thankfully, the version I played had a cheat to turn off the timer, and bam, the game is instantly 100% more fun. One of the things I did like was that you had to not only solve the puzzle, but figure out where on screen you had to solve the puzzle. I played it for around an hour and basically got to level 15. Bam! Pajako, puzzle master. And gave up, feeling I had seen everything the game had to offer. Speaking of what, oh yeah, I'll talk about that later. There are some bonus levels that are interesting, and yes, timers on those is fine to have. I would say this was as dull as chemistry class, but I loved chemistry, and this game has none. 5 out of 10.
Man, what a
P.S.
wordsmith he is.
Yeah. P.S. Why do you get score for the molecules on screen at the end of the level? You start and end with them, so it seems unnecessary. Our other review this week comes from J.R. Mobley. He says, I really struggled with the first level, cursing the timer and completely failing to see the rather obvious solution. Finally made it to level 2, and I really hit my stride and started to enjoy the puzzles quite a bit until I got a bad start on level 5 and ran out of time. That is when the true futility of my situation became clear. I had to start over. Atomix plays like a Nintendo hard platformer or checkpoint racing game, or Simon. You have to memorize an increasingly long list of solutions and execute them at top speed. Nope. Just as a reminder for all those who are listening, if you would like to leave us a review for us to read on the air, all you have to do is join our Discord community by going to patreon.com/Amigos podcast.
Very good. Now, just a little bit less here. I took a look at the reviews of this just for fun. The people at Lemon liked it, Boat 7.39.
Yeah, that's a good score from Lemon.
Looking over the scores, hey, this got a 79% in Joker. Enough said.
Yeah, well, they love that Euro trash.
Well, hey, Dator Magazine gave this a 7 out of 10. So I think we're getting some Homer scores here.
That's right. Joker is the home of the Homer score.
Although Amiga Computing gave it an 81, Amiga Format gave it a 61. So there was a little bit of play there. The average magazine score, when you take all these into account, 75%.
Listen, I'm going to get real here.
Oh,
if I could, man, I would turn the chair around and straddle it, like that movie with the girl that's a Marine and she's teaching the kids. The 75 is a fair score for this game. I mean, this game is not for us. No. It's punishing. It's hard, but it doesn't exactly fail on any particular level. It's just not a game that was built for people like you and me.
No, I don't agree. And I'll tell you why. Because they failed at the small things that don't need to be failed at. You're right. Don't downplay your own comments. It should have a mode to make it simpler to start. It should have no time limit to begin. It should have an easier way to quit and come back. It should have level codes. It should have the ability to turn on and off the timer. It should have all these things. It's a simple game. Any geek could do this. They just need to add the little touches. It's one of those games where they didn't add the little touches. And that takes the score down, brother, way down. If they got this thing, we've played games just like this where they didn't screw up all the other little things and they were okay. So this does not, I don't think 75 is too high for me.
What would you give this one?
65.
65?
It's in the D zone. D zone boat. There you go. That's our look at Atomix. If you're a real super genius, give it a whirl. If you're like me and Boat, I don't know, stick to Play-Doh.
Are you a sketchy tech? Do you have the right tools for the job? Have there been incidents? Next time, don't try to fix it yourself. Send your broken Amiga to Retro Rewind. Get a full diagnostic, a reasonable estimate, and the peace of mind knowing that your machine is in the hands of real technicians with decades of experience and cutting-edge repair equipment. Save 10% off your repair with the promo code Amigos10. Thank you to RetroRewind.ca for supporting this episode. I didn't ask you.
Amiga News.
Campbell Train.
Yeah. It's Campbell Train time.
We've had a very busy week in the world of Amiga News. We kick things off, as always, as we often do, with our good buddy Neil over at Indie Retro News, who reports King Arthur Rise of the Round Table is a sword-slashing Amiga CD32 game inspired by Moonstone. Inspired by Moonstone, Aaron.
That's a stretch, I think. A little bit of a stretch. Having played this game.
Now,
I mean,
we're incredibly lucky. We're incredibly lucky to have you on Amigos this week, Aaron, because
other weeks.
You've played all the games we're going to talk about this week. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts about King Arthur: Rise of the Round Table.
Well, if you saw my Amiga Game Jam a couple weeks ago, we played every game that's up for voting. I think the voting's over. I think, and so this was one of them. The author freely admits that this isn't done, and it's not done. And when I played it, what you're seeing is the game. As soon as you walk off this level, you just appear on the other side and go through it again. But it's a sword fighting game. I will say, the sword fighting mechanics are pretty good. It's sort of like, you get several different sword strikes that was done quite nicely. And again, I can see the similarities to Moonstone in terms of the amount of blood and the way the sword play works a little bit. But I mean, there's nothing there. From what I saw, there was no other Moonstone's a complete game with a story and background and monsters, all that stuff. This doesn't have that yet. That may be in the cards. This is doing the same thing the one I won't play. It just starts over and over. But I mean, it's a good-looking game. It's very attractive, and I think there's a lot of promise here. So we'll see what comes of it. But I did enjoy it, and I do like the sword play element. Hey, when you can get a nice bit of sword play in there, you're in business. This came on an ISO, by the way, when you get it, and I believe it's made to run on a CD32. Of course, I ran it on the Mister. I ran this on Amiga Forever when we did it, and it worked. But I mean, it's not done yet. They're working on it though. It should be good.
And of course, thanks to Saberman for capturing all of this awesome footage.
Yeah.
Do you think Saberman just has a direct line to every single person that makes a new Amiga game?
Well, listen, if you make a new game, who do you call? It ain't Ghostbusters. You call Saberman. So he's probably, once you're as famous as him, he's got all the tips coming in. And then Neil is waiting in the background. He's like, where's that new video? And the guy's working on it, churning them out.
They're the dream team.
We may be totally wrong. We don't know. We have no inside information here. We're guessing.
Speaking of the dream team, let's talk about Caravandolph.
Yeah.
Gandalf's older brother.
Yeah, I played this too, Boat.
So this looks pretty interesting. What do you think about old Caravandolph?
This is a shooter, and shmup.
Very Twin B-esque looking at it here.
It is. It's sort of as they call him, the old cute 'em up, Boat.
Yeah, one of my favorite genres.
So get this, Boat. I've been told, someone schooled me on this caravan style gaming. Okay, do you know what that is?
Caravan style gaming.
Yeah.
No, I know that in when we think about caravan, we think about like going across the desert. But in England, when people think about caravan, they think about what we would call a camper.
I see. What I think it was the old minivan we used to have with the faux paneling on the side.
Yeah, we had one of those too. An '88 Dodge, it was a Chrysler, '88 Chrysler minivan, liquid paneling.
These caravan games, I could be wrong here, and someone will correct me, but I believe it's like a point pressing thing, and you play games under a time limit. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And this is apparently one such game. It sort of just goes on and on.
Why do they call them caravan games?
Listen, you're asking the wrong guy. This is a new play thing that I've not heard of. Okay,
so it's one of those fads.
Yeah, here it is. Mitch Yama to the rescue. Caravan mode is score the most points in a time limit. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
One of the interesting gimmicks about this one is that you've got two different bullet styles. If you hold, as I recall, if you hold the bullet down. If you hold your button down, I should say, you get one stream of bullets, and if you tap it, you get another stream. So it's got built in two different types of bullet streams you can.
Yeah, you get sort of a spread shot if you just tap it.
And this thing starts out kind of moping along, and then it shifts into like ultra warp about halfway through the first the third level or so, and then you're really cruising. It was an interesting game, and it ran real well. So if this sort of gameplay is your cup of tea, you might dig it, and it wasn't like ridiculous hard, but it scrolled smoothly. And hey, if this is a new game style that I'm not familiar with, maybe I want to be familiar with it. So I'm glad to see it come to the Amiga.
I like the phrase caravan game style, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, there you go. You're easy touch today, Bode.
I am. All right, Aaron, coming up next. This is probably the weirdest game that we've looked at. Did you even look at this one?
Oh,
Holiday?
Yeah.
Okay, man. Tell us about Holiday.
So it starts off with a bunch of licensed music. I can tell you that one. By the way, I know Life School because I've used some of his stuff, and we've talked.
Life School's a great guy. Yeah, he works for Kim Lemon.
And so this is his photo RPG Holiday.
A visual novel.
Holiday's interesting to me, and because of all the games we played on the Amy Game Jam, this is by far the most unique in terms of what he's got going on here.
Right.
It reminds me of it's an old school game in a lot of ways with a lot of photos in it. The photos are real nice, like digitized photos, and you're on this vacation, but it's real weird, man. I mean, you have to. I'm not gonna ruin it. You just go. You have to get the flavor text and look it over. But I mean, I know one thing. Like I toured this beachfront area after I got dressed and went outside, and then before too long, I starved and died. I just died. And I was in like a city. I wasn't in like the desert, like this guy. So you got to pay attention to your food, for sure. But it's pretty. It's interesting.
I'm gonna read you the official description of this game. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says your task is to survive the next 11 days in a climate of heat, humidity, and the air smelling sweet like ripe bananas at a Spanish resort.
Yeah, I would love to have that task. Task me up and watch me survive like you've never seen a sucker survive. But this game, it's the interface. It's very much. You know what it reminds me of? I remember on the Coco show, we played that game that had the built-in speech, and you use the arrows to like go through the different scenes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
The something affair or something like that. I can't
the
remember
Interbank incident.
The Interbank incident. This sort of reminds me of that, like the Amiga version. But this one is. Listen, I can't describe this. You just have to try it sometime. Give this one a whirl just for fun. Because it's definitely, and the pictures are real pretty too. It's nice, but you probably will die. I think it's pretty deadly. So there you go. But yeah, it's fun. Hey, listen, another one that was stuck into contest. I believe he used a game helper, Can Do. I think he used Can Do to make this, as I recall.
Okay.
It runs. Yeah, here it is. He did do something or another. So. Check that out. A lot of fun. All these could be picked up from the Amy Game Jam site as well as Neil's site here.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Our next story is about people go on, as they say in England, about teletext.
Yeah.
Teletext is like a very early form of the internet, which you could have like the news, the weather, stock information delivered to your door. Virtually through a terminal. And guess what, Aaron? Teletext has come to the Commodore Amiga. This is one of these things I feel like should have been done years and years and years ago, but apparently this was a very difficult thing to do. It says, according to Neil, mighty coders have tried and failed at this task. It should be a candidate for technical wonder award of some kind. So it looks like they've actually used the teletext. It's sort of like ANSI or ASCII. ANSI, I guess, is what the word I'm looking for. It's like an ANSI art. They've managed to create a version of Worms, which is pretty cool. This comes from, I guess, the developer name Attention Whore. So that tells you all you need to know.
I love it.
Do you know much about teletext and its various wonders, Aaron?
I know enough to be dangerous. I've heard other people talk about it on like I've heard stuff about it like This Week in Retro and a couple other shows. I know of it. It reminds me of like the BBSs had gotten like a turbo boost because it's like, you're right, it is very antsy like the graphics, but there's no way you could have gotten this on a BBS. And so I have to say it's interesting to me. I like the fact that someone struggled with it and then did it. Anything worth doing is worth doing double if it's difficult. And I mean, this is very impressive. Both.
Yeah, super impressive.
And I like anytime you've got an additional. I don't know what can be done with this ability. Like, I don't know exactly what you could do. Okay, now we can play this stuff. What does that mean? But I know a lot of teletext is still around. The stuff that was out there. And so, presumably, I assume you could in some ways just load old, I don't know if you could, because teletext was interactive, Boat.
Yeah, I think what you do is you run teletext.exe, and then you just get everything on your Amiga.
This is definitely something I'm gonna look in on. I'm gonna look into this. This is the first I've heard of this, but when I saw your news item, and I was instantly intrigued. So I'll definitely look in on this one and check back. But that's really neat. That might be a lot of fun, Bode.
And finally, Aaron, perhaps the biggest story, not only of the week, but of the year, there is a new edition of Amiga Addict that has just hit newsstands everywhere. Just a reminder, you can pick up your Amiga Addict at your closest Waterstones, your local H&M, all your Boots, pretty much anywhere in the UK. You throw a rock, you swing a cat, you can hit a couple issues of Amiga Addict on your friendly newsstand. This issue of Amiga Addict, not only do you get the story of Lightwave, you get a new article from Ravi where he talks about the Boxer, the Badger Punch guys who did the awesome roguelike for the C64 and the Amiga Roguecraft. Not only that, Aaron, but there is a 4-page spread about you, the Brent, in my basement.
There's 4 pages devoted to just
4
us.
pages. That's right.
I can't believe it. You know, I'm not gonna lie, Bode. I mentioned this before the show when I talked to you. You know, I believe it was the Dunk, sent me a thing. It's been probably March or something about.
It's been a couple years at this point.
It's filling something out, and I've totally, you know how I work. The second it goes away, I'm out. I don't know what happened. And so when I was going through Facebook last night at my mom's house, and you had posted something on Facebook about this and shared the screens. I mean, you talk about getting hit in the face with an anvil, brother. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, we made print text. I can't believe it. We're in. We're a magazine. And not just any magazine, but the #1 Amiga magazine on the planet, brother.
That's right.
And boy, it's very nice. You know, my parents are very impressed that we made the magazine, me, you, and the Brent. Thanks to everybody who got us in there. You know, Dunk and all the fellas over there. It's humbling, and I know I'm gonna gush over, but it's just so neat to me that to get to be mentioned in there. I just love it.
Not only mentioned, there's a story about you. You get your whole life story in there.
Oh man, well, I didn't say it was. I mean, I did my best. I lied a lot, you know. No, I don't. I don't even remember what it's all about. So I can't wait to see it. But it's gonna be. It's just awesome. So if you and that's one of the minuscule reason to buy or subscribe to Amiga Addict. It's great. I never miss an issue. Get them delivered right to the old computer here and check them out. You can have them send you a hard copy. They'll send you a PDF, whatever you want. They will take care of you. Great magazine and good friend of the show, Bode.
Absolutely. All right, Aaron. Well, that's going to wrap up the news for this week. What's been going on the old YouTube channels?
Well, just as a quick touch this week, Bode, we really are sort of beginning our transition, aren't we, Bode, into the post boat era on some of these.
They call it the post boat era. That's the.
Do you like the post boat? There's got to be a nautical term we could use. You know,
a nautical term. Yeah, that's true.
The one thing I want to touch on that I think people might find interesting is I was very fortunate last week after we did the shows here. Our good buddy Franco Richard Rewind contacted me. And he was like, listen, I'm good to go if you want to do that interview we missed, which I'm trying, you know, if you'll recall at Boat Fest, I interviewed everyone. But I missed some people. Jason Warrens was one, and Frank was one. And so I got to sit down with Frank for over an hour and do a live chat, Q&A, including audience answers or questions. Audience, yeah. Frank questioned the audience. But the audience asked questions. It was very nice. And you get a lot of interesting inside baseball on just what it's like to run your own shop. Like, how hard is it? What's the most difficult things? What's the biggest seller? What's the most difficult thing to produce?
These are questions that you've had on your mind for a while. So it's good that you finally got answers to them.
Well, I mean, I'm just an average guy, but I mean, don't you want to know this stuff? I mean, I did.
Heck yeah. You are the everyman. You're the avatar that represents all of us peons.
Well, yeah, just the blue collar warrior, Bo. It's where the way I like to go. But if you
blue collar warrior does describe you.
If you think that might be interesting, And I know people are like, oh, yeah, interview your advertiser. This has nothing to do with the advertiser. It's just that Frank is a multifaceted. You'll find out if you watch the interview or listen to it. Frank's not just some guy that runs a computer store in Canada. I mean, this guy's been around the block. He's worked on major networks with the top shelf tech people, celebrities.
Leo Laporte, co-host, years and years and years.
Yeah, and that's enough said. So real fun. I had a real good time with that boat, and I hope people dug it. That is definitely worth checking out, boat.
All right, Aaron. What do we got coming up next week on Amigos?
It's Atomix 2, but no, I'm just kidding.
Oh no.
Tiny Troops. Tiny
Troops, where war is fantastic. Okay.
Wow, how original. As opposed to being fun.
I'm encouraged by that cover art there. It looks pretty good. I like the shoulder pads on that worm guy.
I don't know, Boat.
Pretty good.
I'm not sure about this one, Boat. But by God, we're doing it.
That's right. Well, we'll find all about it next week. Thank you all, as always, for joining us. We will see you next time, and until then, adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/AmigosPodcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.